I got all kinds of gadgets today. Good morning.
Good morning.
How many of you, when you walked in and I handed you a balloon, already felt a little enthusiasm? And how many of you felt terrified? Like, oh no, what is she up to, right? What do I have to do? My topic, besides it being enthusiasm, which is for me a really awesome topic, because the word enthusiasm literally means God within. So for me, I was thinking, well, how do I want to make it into a smaller vein that we can practice today? Because I like practicing these principles in all our affairs. And although I feel the enthusiasm in you, it's hard to take that everywhere in our lives, especially as adults. The topic I chose was the art of God's play, because I think as adults what we learn is the art of seriousness, worry, fear, projection, right? And we're wired internally for the opposite. The yogis have a word called lila, and the word lila combines, the word means God's enthusiasm or God's play. And so the yogis put together that in order for us to be really enthusiastic, truly, I'm not just talking a moment of it, but as a feeling and a lifestyle, it has to be incorporated with the spirit of the God of our understanding. There's another Sanskrit word, it's called Jiva Mukta. And what that means is when you have been practicing on a path of enthusiasm, you have a fully awakened soul. And what that means is you bring that sacred you, not that serious you, but that sacred, playful, silly you into your world so that you're not looking for your purpose. How many of us, I get that question all the time from my clients, what's my purpose? And I go, your purpose is to be authentic and autonomous and to have enthusiasm. Then we take it in all our affairs. So today, the way I like to teach and the way I like to play is through experiential, because we don't learn through words, we learn through experiences. So we're going to play today. Everyone has a balloon, right? And if you don't, it's all right. We have plenty of them that will work. So we're going to do an exercise of play so that you get to feel. And what I'm going to ask of you is to see if you can experience this, and notice I want you to see if you can experience this exercise from your neck down. How will you know that, right? You'll know that by it will become timeless, you'll be spontaneous, and you'll feel it in your body. And most of us, unfortunately, I'm just as guilty, I have been taught to go up and separate from that divine dance within, which is the dance between Shakti and Shiva, right? The holy coupleship. So I'm going to ask all of you to stand. And you can hold your balloon. Oops, I'm going to give you mine.
Oh, there you go.
And if you want to sit, you can sit also. You don't have to stand. But while either standing or sitting, I want you first to feel your roots, your feet. Right? Breathe down into your legs. I want you to keep your eyes open for the entire exercise, because it's very rare in life, you're in a meeting, you're driving, when you need to get centered, that you can close your eyes. So we want to learn how to practically be able to center in the chaos of life without having to close our eyes. So I want you first to feel, what does it feel like in your body? Enthusiasm, play. And I just want you to see if you can breathe down into your body and see where it lands. if it lands at all. And now I want you to turn to someone close to you, and hopefully not someone you know really well, and look into each other's eyes. Take a risk, go to someone you don't know. Without words, I want you to look into that person's eyes, stay in your own body, and notice that feeling that you had, if it contracted or expanded. Did it broaden or did it get diminished? Stay in your breath, stay in your body. Now I want you to turn into the group as a whole, collective consciousness. Face in and get a panoramic of everyone. Like, look around the room at all the other kids that you decided to hang out with today. And then take a breath again with your eyes open and notice the feeling. And did it broaden or did it expand? Did it diminish or did it contract? So noticing what we do with each other, how we influence each other just with our energy. So now we're going to play a game. You ready to play? Yes. Ready or not, here it comes. So I'm going to play music. Once the music starts, the object of the game is to not let any of the balloons touch the ground. Now your balloon is no longer, when it's up in the air, your balloon. It becomes a collective balloon. And so we all collectively are going to keep the balloons in the air. And when I shut off the music, we're going to stop. You ready? What?
What happens to the balloons?
Don't worry about the balloons. Okay, so the music stopped. So wherever you are, land. And notice again, singularly in your own holy temple, sacred, not serious, notice where enthusiasm is and how it feels. Feel it. Notice where it lands in your body. Go back to the person that you were eye to eye to. And notice when you look into this person's eyes or group, if your enthusiasm is expanding or contracting. Is it broadening or is it diminishing? Now face the group, panoramic view of a collective consciousness. Look around the room and notice as a group, when you come back to that oneness, if you feel expanded or contracted, broadened or diminished. So now come back to your seats. Keeping that playfulness. Where's the time guy? So how many minutes do I have? Because I had so much fun, I lost track of time. And let me tell you, one of the hardest things for me that I have shortage consciousness around is time. I'm a working mother, right? I feel like there's not enough of me. And when I allow myself to have play, spontaneous play, and usually I go into it kicking and screaming because it's usually with my 8-year-old. Right? Yes, this week before school he said to me, "Can we go down the basement and play?" And I was like, what do I do? How do I think? How do I feel? He wants me to do something out of the box. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Mom, can we just play for a few minutes?" Now to him, play is he takes the mattresses off the beds. How many of you have control issues around cleanliness? Right? And we're living at my mother's house, who is a neat freak, right? He takes the mattresses off and he jumps from one mattress to the other, to the couch, flips over it while we play ball. So if you think that you had a lot of enthusiasm just throwing a balloon up in the air, could you imagine? He has gotten me to love trampolines. Anybody like trampolines here? First I went in there and I was like stepping in it, right? Thinking I might break a bone. And then I started jumping and I was like, wow, this is more fun than I thought. I love the trampoline now. The minute I get in that trampoline, him and I are in another world. And it doesn't matter how, I forget time, I forget dinner, I forget anything else except that. That's enthusiasm. And for most of us, we forget that that is a lifestyle. I have been reading this great book, The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope, who is a great yogi. He is one of the scholars up at Kripalu. And he, in his book, talks about Jane, let me see if the primatologist. Anybody know her name? Gold. And that when she was born to an aristocratic family, and when she was about 4 years old, one of the jobs she had, she loved animals from the get-go. She would gather the eggs, and she'd look there and go, where the heck are they coming from? So when she was about 4 years old, she hid in the hen house for 4.5 hours. Everyone was going crazy looking for her because she was fascinated by animals and wanted to know, how does something like that come out of something like that? Right? Good question. And she waited and hid until she saw it. And when she saw it, it blew her mind apart. Went running out, and as she was running, her mother started running towards her, and her mother saw Jiva Mukta. She saw her eyes lit up. And at that moment, most of us probably in our lifetime, at some time when we were kids, had that. Her mother did something remarkable. She didn't yell at her and say, where were you, stupid kid? We were worried about you. She knew it was a special moment, and she saw her and nurtured that wanting. In fact, she spent a lot of time with her daughter in Africa. You know, when they first got there, the natives said, these two English broads will never make it, ever. And she spent years and years there because watching her daughter, how many of you are parents? Watching our kids tap into that enthusiasm, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, right? Each other, because it's never too late. We have lots of interference on the path to enthusiasm. We've been trained out of it. And to find our way back has to be a commitment of a lifestyle. My spiritual teacher tells this great story. There was this woman who was always interested in the outdoors, and her parents, who were from the Depression, wanted her to get a job that would be secure. So they kind of forced her off her path, unlike Jane's mother. So she went to school, got married, had kids, was living the life. But if you looked at her eyes, they were dull. They weren't lit up. One day, she decided to take a fly fishing class. And when she went, something magical happened to her. Her soul started to come up and brighten. And she said to my spiritual teacher, all I want to do is fly fish. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to cook. I don't want to go to work. And my spiritual teacher said something that was so beautiful. She said, you found the doorway into your soul, into your gift, that every one of us has many. She happened to just stumble into it. Right? I think as adults, we almost have to stumble into it because we've been so programmed to think rather than feel it in our bodies. And my teacher said, don't worry, the balance will come, right? How many of us on one side and then we go to the other side? I recently, this week, decided to dye my hair purple. And so I ran into someone I know and they said, midlife crisis? Well, if that was true, I'd be living to 110, so doubtful. And I said, no. I've had my midlife crisis, but the first part of my life was a midlife crisis. But I went from, I don't know if any of you can relate to this, I spent most of my youth acting out, fighting those walls of conform, to the point where I ended up in a lot of trouble, all the way on the opposite side. And then I got sober, praise the Lord, and started the journey back. And I went from being super acting out to super responsible. And I feel like I'm finding now more of that balance. Right? Years ago, it wouldn't have been purple, and it wouldn't have been in a streak. You know, I would have shaved my head. You know, I would have had 90 earrings in my ears. And not that for someone might be balance. Might be balance. It's not me to say what's balance for anyone. But for me, finding that balance where I can be open to God's play in all my affairs. And I don't know about any of you, but for me, it's definitely a practice. Particularly the most important place that I want to practice it is in my parenting, so that I'm not interfering in my son's lit up soul, that I am more a nurturer of it, and I mind less of my business of how I think it's going to look for him, but that I encourage him to find that. So my offering to you is to stumble, fall, search for that enthusiasm, that lila in your life, so that we can continue to be uplifters and teachers to it, because our world needs creative geniuses. Thank you.